Did you know yesterday was St. Nicholas Day? Children in Germany and other countries went to bed and put their shoes out, hoping to find them filled with toys and treats. Did you do that? Yeah, kids here do it too, yeah. Who is this saint, St. Nicholas? How did he get to be a gift giver? No idea. Do you know, Kai? No. No idea. Who was this guy? Well, today we have a special guest who can tell us about St. Nicholas. So we're going to just give him a moment. Oh my goodness, I better get out of the way.
So my name is Nicholas. I lived a long time ago in the 4th century. That would be the 300s. Church magic. And I was the bishop of a town called Myra. And Myra was in the Byzantine Empire and what you would now call Turkey. The country of Turkey. And I was imprisoned and was tortured and persecuted for my faith by the Emperor Diocletian and was then released by the Emperor Constantine later on. And I attended the Council of Nicaea in 325, so I had a hand in writing your Nicene Creed. But that's not why I'm famous. There are some good stories about that. Now, there were once 3 boys who were on their way from school to go back home. And they lived a long way from their school, so they had to spend the night in an inn. And they stayed at this inn, and the innkeeper said, here's a way to keep the food costs down. And he cut those 3 boys up and put them in vats and tickled them. Now, their parents became concerned when they didn't come home from school. Do your parents ever get concerned when you don't come home from school? No? Your parents pick you up from school, okay. Well, they were not so lucky. And so their parents got concerned and they came to me and they said, Nicholas, we can't find our children. What could have happened to them? And so I did a little investigating and came to this inn and saw these 3 barrels and made the sign of the cross over those barrels. And out of the barrels jumped the 3 boys, alive and well. Just one of the good stories about me. There was some other one. You don't believe that? Well, just wait. There's even more. So once, after I was made a bishop, I went on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, to the Holy Land, to see what I could see there and to visit all the holy places. And while I was there, on the way there was a huge storm. And it was the worst storm these sailors had ever seen. And they were scared. And so they asked me if I could do something. And I prayed that the storm would end, and it did. And as a result, those sailors said, that Nicholas, he's a holy man. And another time, there was another group of sailors who also came upon a storm, and it was the worst storm they had ever seen. and it rained and the wind blew, and they thought they were going to lose their ship for sure. And so they prayed and prayed that the storm would end, and it did. And so when they came to the port that they were headed for, they went to the church to offer thanks to God that the storm ended. And when they got there, they saw me. And they said, "Oh, we saw you in a vision when we prayed that the storm would end, that you were praying for us at the same time. And we know that you are a holy person." Now, sometimes we run out of food. We call that a famine. And there was one of those famines going on in my city, in Myra, and in the nearby area. And the imperial ships would come full of grain, but they wouldn't share any. And so finally we asked, "Would you please share your grain with the people of the city so that they could have food?" And the ship captains wouldn't do it. They said, "No, we can't do that. This is imperial grain. It's been measured very carefully, and if we don't deliver every single ounce of grain, we will be in big trouble." I said, "If you share the grain, the measurement will stay the same." And it did. And the people could eat and rejoice. But the most famous story about me involves 3 sisters. You two stand up. Rosie, come here. I need props. 3 sisters. And their father, no offense, was very poor. Financially, he was a good father. And so they had no money for a dowry. And without a dowry, they couldn't be married. And so they were destined for a life of servitude, slavery at worst, or staying in their father's home as a servant at best. So I thought, I can help with this. And so in the night, I rode on my horse, and I went past their house and threw a bag of gold through the window so that the oldest daughter could get married. And they took this bag of gold, and it was her dowry so that she could get married. So you can sit down. And then I heard again the second daughter had the same problem. She'd met someone and fallen in love and wanted to be married, but had no money for a dowry. So again, I rode my horse through the streets of the town and tossed a bag of gold in through the window so that she too could have a dowry and be married. Young daughter number 3, who's so excited to be standing next to me, also fell in love and wanted to be married. And again, no money for a dowry. And so, one more time, I rode through the streets to throw a bag of gold through the window. But the window was shuttered. So whether her father wanted to keep her at home, maybe he didn't like the boy, I don't know. But I couldn't get the gold in through the window, it was closed. So you know what we did? Climbed up on the roof and dropped it down through the chimney. And it landed in a stocking sitting next to the fireplace to dry. And then you had your dowry and you could get married too. She says, "Oh, good, I can sit down." And that, my friends, is why to this day a pawnbroker shop has 3 gold balls on the sign of the 3 bags of St. Nicholas. For not only am I the patron saint of sailors and children, but also pawnbrokers as well. Well, those sailors, they get around. They go from place to place, and sailors cannot keep their mouths shut. And so soon they were telling stories about me to all the places they went. And my fame spread all around the world, and especially in Europe and in the land of the Dutch people. And in the Low Countries, every sailor would go to church on or about St. Nicholas Day and go to the Nicholas service where they would say special prayers. And then afterwards, they would go to the Nicholas market and buy trinkets and gifts and would take them to their children, and they would bring them their special Nicholas gifts. And so, to this day, each year on December 6th, or the evening before December 6th, children put their shoes out by their beds or by their doors in hopes that they will have presents and gifts on St. Nicholas Day the next day. But as time went on and theories blended and stories came to be told about me, suddenly I began to pick up some extra attributes, some extra characteristics. And I got merged with the old god Odin. Odin, from the time before Christianity, was the god of Yuletide, the feast that happened in midwinter. And so because Odin had a white horse that could fly through the sky, suddenly I acquired a white horse that could fly through the sky. And because Odin could enter buildings through a chimney, suddenly I could enter buildings through a chimney as well. And so often in countries around Europe, I'm shown as a bishop with a white horse. Now, sometimes I have an assistant who comes with me, not him. He's too nice. But my assistant's name is Krampus, or Black Peter. You don't want to get on the wrong side of Krampus, because where I will bring toys and treats to good children, Krampus gives out sticks and coal to naughty children. So stay on my good side and not Krampus. Now, during the Reformation, when praying to saints was frowned upon, this gentleman named Martin Luther decided it was better to focus gift-giving on the Christ child than on St. Nicholas, and moved the giving of gifts to Christmas instead of my day, December 6th. So the Christkind, the Christ child, would bring these gifts, but yet I still remained a popular gift giver as well. But soon, people began to travel. And people from Holland, the Dutch people, came to this country. And they settled in a place they called New Amsterdam. You call it New York. And so they brought with them their stories of St. Nicholas, only they didn't call me St. Nicholas. They called me Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas. What does that sound like? Santa Claus. So you say Sinterklaas, enough time, you go from Dutch to English, and you get Santa Claus. And so that is how the story of Santa Claus and Christmas came to this country. It's really the story about me. But that's a story for another day. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I know it's too late to put out your shoes for St. Nicholas Day this year, so don't forget to hang up your stockings for my friend on Christmas Eve. So now you can go back to your seats, and we will continue with the service.